All right, I'm going to jump right in and have a productive day in the studio. Have you ever stopped to think about the things that might be holding you back from achieving your goals in your home studio? Now, I'm not talking about the pursuit of more gear or how to get better mixes. That's far too general. I'm talking about practical things that might actually be holding you back. Now, I know what my biggest challenges are, but I stopped to give some thought to it, and I've come up with 3 things that have really helped me here in my home studio, and I want to share those with you today. I'm the Lonely Rocker. This is I Don't Have a Band, and welcome to my soon-to-be cleaned up home studio. Now that I've wasted 2 hours of prime time cleaning up the studio, I can finally get into this video. Well, therein lies one of my biggest challenges. I've always struggled with organization, and really I think the key word here is efficiency. The 3 goals that I've set for myself and ultimate solutions all revolve around the idea of efficiency. Now, to understand my goals is to understand what I actually do here in my studio. My main profession is actually on the production side of things as a production and video editing studio. The audio side of things has been more of a passion and a hobby, but as I get better at it and as the capabilities improve here in my studio, it's starting to fuse into the professional side of my life. And on top of that, I've got an active YouTube channel where the role of the studio is as a backdrop to all of the videos that I'm creating here for you guys. Now, there's 3 things that will truly benefit from some serious efficiency. Now, I'm fast approaching probably close to 100 productions a year here in the studio, so getting organized is of critical importance to me. Now, your goals may be different than my goals, but that's okay. But I've got a goal for this video, and that's to inspire you maybe to stop and think about some things that you can do. Now, buying gear in this hobby or profession of ours is certainly unavoidable. Maybe you got your eye on that vintage Verimut compressor. That's a topic for another day. But often our solutions are not always purchases, or maybe making smart purchases to help us get organized or whatever it is that you're trying to do with your studio. And that's what I want to cover today, so let's get started. By the way, if you're new to home recording or looking to set up your home studio for the first time, I do have the Home Studio Starters Guide. I'm going to put a link in the description below. In fact, there's a few topics that I touch on in this video that I've actually got full-blown videos for. So I'm going to create a playlist for this episode. I'm going to call it I Don't Have a Band number 71. The link is in the description. If some of the things that I talk about here resonate with you, then check out that playlist, and perhaps there's some more information waiting there for you. And by the way, also, nothing about this video is sponsored. Any of the products that I do mention here are my own, so this is all my own opinion. Nobody is influencing anything I have to say. You got to say that these days. Anyways, goal number 1. One of the main reasons why I set up the studio in the first place is that I'm a guitar player. I've got this big Marshall set up here, and I wanted to capture the tones of this amp. I do like to write songs and things like that. So really, I built the studio around the idea that this was my main setup for my guitar. Now, very quickly, I realized that became extremely problematic. This is a home studio. I do have a family. I've got kids, and being able to record any day or night is just not feasibly possible. So the goal of being able to record guitars at night really translates into being able to record guitars whenever I wanted to. Because sometimes I'm stifled. I've got an hour window where I can get the guitars recorded, and that just doesn't work for me. So I'm using plugins and things like that, and then I had to replace the tracks later. It just took far too much time. So a big goal here in my studio was to create efficiencies around the way I record my guitars. And that actually extends to a second amplifier. I'll talk about that in a second. But I did introduce the 2 Notes Torpedo Capture 8. What that is a DI and load box. I have a whole video about that. That will be in the playlist. But that allows me to take this tube amp, convert it to a line level. It's got the built-in load box, so you don't blow up your amp. Take that signal directly into your interface, or through a preamp in my case, and then into the interface. So I could record record this amp any day or night. I can work on headphones and still get those true tube saturation tones that I love so much. I'm not willing to sacrifice the amp. I also have a second tube amp, the Hughes & Kettner Grandmeister Deluxe 40. Actually used to sit here, but for ergonomic reasons, which I'm going to touch on in goal number 3, is actually sitting at my sitting position. That's also got a built-in DI, so I can record that amp directly as well, work on headphones, so I'm just working out parts and I'm recording at the same time. And also really the convenience here is that it's, to me, as easy as a plug-in because everything has been set up, they're already patched in. This comes up on input 5 in my DAW. The Grandmeister comes up on input 4, so I just basically select the input in my system. I've got all the tones really set up, and in fact the Grandmeister is a programmable amp. I do talk about that amp as well. Look for the link in the description. But it's as easy as recording plugins for me because I just spark up my system. The only thing is with tubes, you want to warm them up a little bit, but other than that, they're already ready to go. So if I'm really just writing or working out parts, I'm actually recording in the full quality that I would in a recording session. So they're all ready to go and there's no messing around, and it really saves me a lot of time. And that's a big goal that I had here in my studio that I can now check off. So my second goal of a faster workflow kind of ties in more to the mixing side here in my studio. I already talked about the efficiencies that I put in place for recording guitars. But the mix, that was something, a bit of a beast at the beginning. I'm self-taught and really started off as a hobby, just wanting to make my own songs. And I'll remember that first song that I did, I must have spent a year and a half on that thing. And really I was learning, I didn't know what I was doing. But as I started doing it more and more, and really, as I said, video production is my main gig, but audio production is definitely creeping into the mix now, and especially with this YouTube channel where I'm producing upwards of about 60 episodes a year now. At least that's my current average. I'm actually hoping to increase that. Plus I've got client projects, plus I've got music projects that I'm doing. Got to find time for all of these different projects. So I really want to speed up the mixing game. And now one thing that I don't believe in are what I call cheater plugins. Those are plugins where it claims you can push a button and get a finished tone and you can move on. That's just not something I'm into. If you want to learn how to mix, you're certainly not going to mix by using plugins that are doing all the work for you. And I don't believe that's going to work anyways, because there's no template or preset that's going to identify and fix every situation out there. That's not how mixing works. But there are a suite of plugins out there that really can help speed up your game, but still allow you to use your ears and do the final mixing. And those are products from iZotope. We've got Ozone and we've got Neutron. Neutron is a great mixing system. They actually have this visual mixer, which I don't use, but what I like about Neutron is the track assistant. So for example, let's say I'm mixing a song, I can put it on, let's say the kick drum track, and then the track assistant can analyze the track. It can either do it automatically, or you can tell it that it's a kick drum. It'll listen to it, and then it'll suggest an EQ curve, it'll suggest some compression, and give you sort of a baseline there for you to work from. And then from there, you can let your ears take over and do the final tweaking and then getting it into the mix. Especially for the videos that I'm doing here for YouTube, I actually mix all of my videos. So once I take the dialogue track, often I've got guitar or some mix examples and plugins, and I throw it into the mix, I can use the track assistant in Neutron to get everything sort of at a good point where I can now step in there, do the final tweaks to EQ compression, get everything balanced, and get it out, and it saves me a ton of time. And also, sticking with iZotope, they've got the Ozone suite, which I remember when I first heard about it, I thought like $300 for a plugin is ridiculous. But in fact, Ozone is actually a whole suite of plugins. I mean, it's a mastering solution, but really it's a whole series of plugins that can be used individually. You've got compression, you've got EQ, you've got tape saturation, you've got all sorts of tools in there. You could virtually handle your whole mix with it if you wanted to. I use it for mastering. I put it on the master bus. It does an analysis of your final mix if you want to set a certain loudness level depending on how you're delivering your track, in my case for streaming videos. And it does a quick analysis. It sets the levels for me. I go in, I do a little bit of tweaking, and that mix is done and mastered. I'm ready to go. So that goal to have a faster workflow in place to get more mixes done faster at a standard that I expect, well, big check mark right there. All right, we're on to the big one now, the third goal, which was probably my biggest goal here in my studio, and that's to create organization and really have good ergonomics here in my studio. Those two really go hand in hand. You neat freaks out there might want to tune out at this point, but a lot of us struggle with organization. It's something that I've struggled with all my life, but with the studio, this busy studio that I have and all the things that I'm doing, honestly, I can't tell you how many times real deep frustration kicked in because I was all inspired, ready to start shooting, and the studio was a mess. I had to clean it up and I wasted a good couple of hours. So I've been working really hard as of late just to create a system here, have it in place so there's a place for everything. This is a video production studio, so I've got cameras, I've got lenses, I've got all kinds of cabling, monitors, filters, green screens, all sorts of things lying around here that I use at different times that we're sort of collecting at the back of the room, the part of the studio that you never see. So I've focused a lot of time over the last little while creating storage solutions and things where I have a place for everything. Now, starting with this cabinet over here, by the way, you're probably wondering why I have so many dog controllers. I am a review channel and I get access to a lot of different equipment, and I've sort of have a little collection of dog controllers growing here, thanks to Icon, but I've got the QCon Pro X on my desk currently. But the G2 gets swapped in sometimes for different videos. Actually, that's my original QCon Pro right there. They were sitting collecting dust, sitting on their ends against the wall, and I didn't think that was a way to take care of a nice dog controller. So it was nice to sort of set them up here. And, you know, as a background for the videos, I think it looks great in the background. You can probably tell me whether you agree with that or not. But they're accessible here. They look good. Also, this cabinetry here, IKEA is really a great place to find a lot of great storage solutions because you can customize it to your needs. So what I've done here is I've kept the top open where I've got all of the accessories that I use, lenses, I got my action cameras, different microphones, guitar pedals, things like that, and some nice convenient lighting here. It looks good on camera, but also importantly, behind these doors here, I've got green screens, diffusion, other cabling and accessories. Maybe they don't look so good on camera, but I know where they are and I know where they belong. And that's going a long way to helping me stay organized. Also, a little thing like over at the couch over there, I've got a nice ottoman. You want to put your feet up, but actually that's also a storage box. So I can keep patch cords in there. I can keep extension cables, all those things that are unsightly that end up collecting on the floor. I can roll them up. I can put them in there. There's a place for them. So that's really what I'm doing in terms of organization. But the other side of that equation is ergonomics. And that's really having things in the right place. Now, there's basic ergonomics for your health, having a comfortable chair, having your hand on the mouse at the right angle. You don't want to get carpal tunnel. I mean, us studio guys, I mean, we're just ripe for those kind of problems. So hopefully you're practicing good posture and you've got a good chair and things like that. But the other side of the ergonomics for me is having things where I want them to be, especially those things that I'm using all of the time. So what I did was I stopped and I gave some thought to the things that I was doing most of the time. And I wanted to have those things accessible from my sitting position. Number one was my audio interface, because I use it to control the volume of my monitors. And I had it at the bridge of my desk. But as I started building out this desk and I built a keyboard tray, well, that audio interface kept getting pushed back. And so to change the volume, I had to stand up and crouch over and reach. It just wasn't working for me. So here's where a purchase could have been made. I am looking at a monitor controller here for the studio, so I can control all my speaker monitor and my headphones and things like that. But the truth is, I didn't really need it. I just rewired things. I brought it into the rack right beside my desk, and I can reach it from my sitting position. And I have a little mixer, which I've had for a while. It's a little headphone mixer. I've got two sets of headphones that I use. One's an open back headphones, one closed back, so for various referencing points or recording, sometimes mixing. I've got the mixer right there at the front of my desk, so I can adjust the levels there. Didn't need to make a purchase because everything is working well with the audio interface accessible from my desk. The other thing, I was talking about amps before, that Hughes & Kettner Grandmeister Deluxe 40, it is a lunchbox format head, so it's quite a bit smaller. I used to have it sitting on top of the Marshall, but I brought it over sitting there on top of the rack there, and it's accessible again from my sitting position. So when I'm working on guitars, I have the guitar in my lap, I have my keyboard in front of me or my mouse, and I can actually reach the amp there. So when I'm creating sounds, just trying different tones and just working out different parts, it's so convenient. As I said, that amp has a built-in DI, so I just turn on the input and I'm ready to go. And having it right there is super, super convenient. You'll notice that I do have a keyboard on my desk. Now, I'm not a keyboard player, but I do fumble around with some chords and some pads and little effects and things like that. When I built this desk, I was actually planning on putting the keyboard actually in the tray at the front, but I realized that was prime real estate for something that I'm not using a lot. So I decided to push it towards the back of the desk. I mean, if I was a piano player or a keyboard player, it's not the most ideal situation, but that was a sacrifice I was willing to make because I wanted to prioritize the things that I actually do on a regular basis. And that's really what I'm trying to reinforce here, is evaluate the things that you're using a lot, make those the most convenient and have them at your fingertips. So what I've done is I paid attention to the things that I'm doing, and those things that I do all the time are now accessible right from my sitting position. And that's gone a long way to enhance the creativity and especially the productivity here in my studio. But you should should think about your own studio and think about the things that you're doing there or that you're trying to do. And maybe you're wasting time because something is in the wrong place, or like me, you're spending too much time cleaning and moving things around before you get started. It seems like a basic thing, but I know it's something that plagues a lot of us. And sometimes all you need to do is sort of take a step back and just think about it, and you'll probably come up with some really great solutions. Certainly, you're going to have different goals in your studio, but maybe the 3 goals that I've set for myself and achieved, that's 3 check marks for me today. Perhaps that's inspired you to think about things that you can do and adapt some of these ideas to things that you're trying to achieve in your own home studio. Well, there are my 3 goals and 3 solutions I've come up with for my home studio. I would love to hear your thoughts on that. More importantly, I'd love to hear some of the challenges you guys have and perhaps some of the solutions you've come up with for your own home studios. Just drop those into the comments. It will be great to hear from you. If you're new to the channel, I hope I've earned a subscribe. I've got a ton of content on this channel, a lot of it revolving around this home studio geared to the home studio enthusiast and the home recording musician, with videos to hopefully help make your home studio life better. So perhaps you just click that subscribe button and come along for the ride. If you really want to support this channel, I am on Patreon. Links to everything I've discussed and some things I haven't are in the description below. And above all else, I hope I'll see you again in another video. As always, if you have any questions, let me know in the comments. And please like, subscribe, and ring that bell to stay up to date. Remember, you don't need a band to rock and roll. There are a lot of great musical projects you can do by yourself, right from your own home. I hope to see you again next time.